Hello, welcome back for Unit 7 of our Contemporary World course here at Waldorf University Online. And as we get into Unit 7 here, I'm a little bit brief in the video, but I got a few things to talk to you about this week because we have a little bit of a non-standard week. So first I'm going to talk about our final skill for the course, which is empathy and moral judgment. Then the second thing I'm going to talk to you about is the discussion board and what we have going on over there. I'm going to talk to you about the Unit 7 quiz as well as the Unit 7 essay. So we have 4 things there. Then I'm also going to briefly talk at the end about the end of course survey. So as we get into this, we're to our final skill. If we think all the way back, we've been working on different skills since week 2 of the course. And this week we're talking about empathy and moral judgment. Our definition for this is how people in the past thought in relation to how we think today. And as we think about this skill, one of the easiest ways maybe to get this is before we pass moral judgment, we should be trying to understand people's situations. So in the same way that we wouldn't want somebody to make a judgment about one of kind of the maybe less than desirable moments in our own lives without first trying to understand what kind of pressures and situations we found ourselves in, we also don't want to do that to other people. This is an important skill, not just in historical study, although it's critical to understanding people under their own conditions. We want to make sure we're thinking about political pressures, economic stresses, what cultural and social things existed that made people kind of make decisions that they made, especially if they're decisions we probably wouldn't make today because of how our society has evolved. So when we think about this, I want you to consider how you would feel. Also, just think about the idea that we should be trying to do this a lot. I think this is one of the skills our society is struggling with. The idea that if we had greater empathy, we try to understand other people's perspectives better before passing judgment. That's not to say you shouldn't pass judgment and be kind of firm in your beliefs and some of these other things, but you should think about how other people orient their systems and how they've come to kind of their decisions as you kind of put these work on this skill. So you're going to practice this over on the discussion board. Our question this week is, how did Europe reinvent itself after the Second World War? How did New Europe differ from the old in terms of cultural identity? So we have a clear point of demarcation with where we started the class, and we're kind of looping back towards that as we get towards the end of this contemporary world course. And so the question has a second part, that is, how did Europeans think differently of themselves in 1995 compared to 1945? And I want you to use empathy and moral judgment. You're going to have to take this skill and do it to kind of put it that way, because you're trying to understand these societal and other constraints on people in 1945, in 1995. I mean, you can even link it into today if you would like. Obviously, another significant amount of time has passed since the 90s in Europe, and there's all sorts of things going on there. So that's what you got on the discussion board this week. As I mentioned, you also have a quiz this week. It's really easy. It's all matching dates to events, but it should give you, I would recommend doing this even before you do the discussion board, maybe as you're working your way through the text or right after, and kind of putting this together in a way that will give you a nice timeline of how things are happening in Europe that then you could use both in your discussion board and then on that Unit 7 essay. So in the Unit 7 essay, you're going to do kind of a similar thing. Here we shift the years 5 years, but you're going to further develop what you're doing on the discussion board. I want you to imagine you're a European from a specific EU country. You can still use England if that's what you would like to do. You can make choices about your gender, nationality, occupation, all those kind of things. I would encourage you to set up a meaningful character to you that maybe can give you some added depth. Some of you struggled last week putting together kind of the necessary depth in your assignment. And aside from just deploying more evidence and going into more detail about things, establishing your characters a little bit further in these types of exercises can give you more things to talk about. So you're going to talk about being born in 1950, now it's the year 2000, or you can even think about it as the current time period. You can pretend it's 2021. Tell your grandchild the story of the nation that you choose. So in addition to the events that led or contributed to your selected country joining the EU, or leaving it, include at least 3 specific historical events during the time period. This is, again, where that timeline in the quiz can help you a little bit. Also talk about present hopes and fears for what the world could look like in 20 years. So make sure that you're using at least 2 reputable sources. Cite and reference them. We've seen some drop-off with that lately. Make sure we're getting these in APA style and using them appropriately. And then make sure that it's at least 2 pages in length, double-spaced, 12-point Times New Roman, and APA, all that stuff. So if you have questions, make sure you're reaching out about that essay. The other thing that's available this week is that end of course survey. I'm constantly trying to use that information to improve these courses. If you've taken other online courses with us, maybe you noticed mine look and function a little bit differently than some of the others. And that's because I take the information that comes in on those end of course surveys and try to meet your needs a little bit better. So although you might not take another history class, this is an opportunity for you to provide me for some feedback and leave a legacy to future students of improvements in this course. So if you have a couple minutes, please take a minute to fill that out. Give me some feedback, talk about things you liked, things maybe you didn't like, things that worked for you, ways we might improve, and I will look at that going forward. I appreciate the hard work you've put into the course so far and look forward to the great things you're going to do this week. Good luck.